What if the most famous execution in all of human history has been completely misunderstood? Today we're going to dig into the final days of a figure known as Yeshua, or Jesus, and we're going to explore how that one single event can be seen through two radically different lenses, creating two worldviews that, well, are often in direct conflict with each other.
And that brings us right to the heart of it, the big question that frames this entire explainer. Just look at the slide. Is the cross a sacred altar for divine salvation, or is it the brutal crime scene of a political assassination? Was it a cosmic transaction or an act of imperial terror? Honestly, how you answer that one question changes absolutely everything.
And this table, it lays out the two paths that split from that one question perfectly. On one side, you have the imperial faith. The primary goal there is salvation, the believer is a subject, and Yeshua is God the Son. But on the other side, you've got the restorationist faith. Here, the goal is something called tikkun, and we'll get to what that means in a minute. Here, the believer is an active co-worker, and Yeshua is the general. That fundamental split in your role, that's the key to understanding everything that comes next.
Okay, so let's start at that pivotal moment, the cross itself. How on earth could one event be interpreted in two such dramatically different ways?
Well, here's where the two paths really diverge. It's all about the core metaphor. The altar view sees this grand, cosmic, divine transaction taking place. But the crime scene view, it sees a very earthly, very political act, a state-sponsored execution designed to crush a movement. One is about divine justice, the other is all about raw imperial power.
So let's unpack this altar view for a second. The core idea here, the theological engine, is something called substitutionary atonement, and it really is a legal framework. Humanity has racked up this massive debt of sin that we just can't pay. So in this view, Yeshua, being both divine and human, steps in and pays that debt for you. The work is done. It's a paid-in-full stamp on your cosmic invoice, which makes you the grateful recipient of this incredible gift.
Okay, but to really get the crime scene perspective, you have to throw out all that language of legal debts and transactions. Instead, you need to grab hold of a really important Hebrew concept, tikkun. As you can see, tikkun means repair or restoration. See, it's not about a finished payment, it's about an ongoing mission. The worldview here is that the world is fundamentally broken, and our job, our spiritual duty, is to actively get our hands dirty and help fix it.
And this idea of tikkun just completely reframes the cross. From this perspective, Yeshua's death wasn't part of some cosmic plan. It was the empire's ultimate attempt to silence the truth. Salvation isn't a debt paid by someone else. It's the hard work of repair that you have to do. You can't just outsource your spiritual labor. So the cross isn't a victory to be celebrated. It's a crime scene that's meant to be a wake-up call, a call to arms.
So, after the crime or the sacrifice, what happens next? Because the story obviously doesn't end there at the cross. So let's take a look at the resurrection.
And surprise, surprise, the interpretation of what happened next also shifts the entire focus. The mainstream view on the left, it really centers on the physical body, a literal reanimation that serves as proof of Yeshua's divinity. But the view of the way, on the right, it's all about the mission. For them, the resurrection isn't really about the body coming back to life, but about proving that the message itself, the truth, is way more powerful than any empire and simply cannot be killed.
And this is the whole ballgame right here. For the restorationist, the resurrection isn't some supernatural magic trick. It's the ultimate proof, the ultimate vindication of a life lived with total integrity. It's meant to show that when you align your life with the truth, you tap into a force so powerful that even death, the empire's biggest, scariest weapon, can't hold you down.
And that brings us to the final event in this whole sequence, the Ascension. And, you guessed it, we see two completely different takes on the exact same story.
So what was it, a coronation or a vindication? The imperial view sees a glorious coronation, a divine king, mission accomplished, returning to his heavenly throne to rule the universe. But flip that coin over, and the restorationist view sees a vindication. This isn't a king returning to his throne. This is a general, the lead field agent, returning to debrief the architect who sent him in the first place. The event isn't about taking power, it's about confirming the mission was a success.
And that distinction between an architect and a king is absolutely crucial. You see, the Way uses the Hebrew term Ein Sof, which means the infinite source, to describe God. We're not talking about a personified monarch on a throne here. We're talking about the uncreated, singular intelligence behind all of reality. This frames the relationship as one of an agent and a source, not a son and a father king.
Now, followers of the Way will point directly to this quote, which is attributed to Yeshua right after his resurrection, as a key piece of evidence. And they argue that the words he uses here are incredibly precise, and they change everything.
The logic is actually pretty straightforward. By saying my God and your God, Yeshua is explicitly putting himself on the same side of that creator/created line as his followers. He is a co-worker ascending to his God just like them. He's not a God returning to himself. For them, this is the smoking gun, the definitive proof that he's the lead agent, not the architect.
Okay, so we've walked through these two very different interpretations of the cross, the resurrection, and the ascension. But we have to ask the big question. Why does any of this actually matter? What's the real-world result of seeing things through one of these lenses versus the other?
Well, it all comes down to this. Is your faith a religion about Yeshua, or is it the religion of Yeshua? The first one makes you a passive subject, protected by a divine king. The second one enlists you as an active co-worker, down in the trenches, fighting alongside your general. The difference is your role. Are you a spectator in the stands, or are you a player on the field?
This quote from the source material just sums up the choice perfectly. It's basically two different contracts. The imperial path demands your submission, and in return, it offers you safety. But the restorationist path, it demands your sovereignty, and in return, it hands you responsibility. It's a fundamental trade-off. Are you looking for protection, or are you looking for empowerment?
And so we end right where we started, with a question for you. When you look at these two paths, what is faith, really? Is it just a system of belief that you're supposed to accept, trusting that all the important work is already done? Or is it a high-stakes mission that demands everything you've got to help repair a broken world? The answer to that doesn't just define a belief system, it defines a way of life.